Good morning, everybody. So last night we slept behind a parking lot, or actually behind a Shell fuel station, about 30 minutes away from the Austrian border. We were deciding whether or not to go to the border to scope out the situation before stopping, but I wanted to make sure I got a full tank of diesel before I got to the border so that we didn't have to stop in Austria on the way. And after getting diesel here, we noticed that it was a relatively safe place to stay for the night. So we just made the call to sleep here last night, which was totally uneventful. It was cold. It got below freezing again. I think it was 26 or 27 degrees just before sunrise this morning. And we ran our diesel heater, which kept us warm, but there was, frost on all the blades of grass this morning. Fortunately, it's not raining, so it's not snowing. The roads are perfectly clear, and now we're heading over to the Austrian border to see what the situation is like. Last night, both me and Marlene got a text message on our Croatian phones from the Croatian police. Somehow they know where we are, and maybe they use location tracking, or maybe they just sent messages out to all Croatian numbers that are roaming. But they sent us a message saying that if we're traveling in from a corona infected area, which at this point I'm imagining it's everywhere. If you're coming into Croatia or to any country from anywhere, you're coming in from a corona infected area, that to make sure let them know. So that's what we'll have to do today, assuming we get to go across Austria and Slovenia both in one day. So today, in order for us to drive all the way back to Split, it is 773 kilometers. So that is roughly 450 miles ish, give or take. And that's about how much we drove yesterday. The day before we drove a little bit longer, so it shouldn't be too bad. It's almost 10 a.m. right now, and we'll be on the road for the next 8 to 9 hours, possibly longer if there's delays. So hopefully there isn't. Keeping our fingers crossed. Thanks for all your well wishes out there. Thanks for all your comments. What's ironic is that if you're new to our channel, you may notice if you scroll back to our older videos that none of them have comments enabled. And that's because our comments were shut off by YouTube for a long time, and we weren't able to communicate with our viewers. And ever since these Stuck in Morocco videos were uploaded, our comments got turned back on wide open. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but I certainly appreciate being able to communicate with all of you guys during this time, and it's been very helpful for just to feel the warmth from all the Moroccan people that have said just amazing things to us, and also to hear from some of you who have been following our channel and watching our videos for a long time, to finally be able to communicate with you guys again. And that's also been really awesome. So I want to appreciate all of you guys for that and all your well wishes. But today I think end is in sight. We're hoping smooth sailing, but fingers crossed. We got a full tank of fuel. We're on the road before 10 a.m. So I would say so far so good. And a lot of you guys have questions that you've asked in the comments, and I've read all of them, and I will try to answer them in today's video throughout. I have to go back and make sure that I look at them again to see just what questions you have. Somebody asked, like, oh, how are you kids so quiet? And other people on Instagram have asked, what are you guys eating while you're stuck in the car, and stuff like that. But the reality is, as far as the kids go, we've done long drives like this, just not during a pandemic. And eating in the van is also something we're very accustomed to. Sure, we have preferences, and some of us are pickier than others, but we have figured out our go-to items, our go-to meals. We're probably not eating as many fresh vegetables and fruits as we would normally prefer, just because of the scarcity and how they don't really keep too well if we're buying them for you know, for long duration, but we are doing what we can. So we'll answer some of those questions later on this video. All right, we're just pulling up on the border between Germany and Austria. Doesn't look like there's a ton of traffic, but there's a lot of emergency vehicles, a lot of cones, a lot of people directing, or at least a lot of redirection of traffic into a single lane, which I presume will get us up to the front and speak to some Austrian authority about getting across. So we see it up here now, so we should be talking to somebody shortly. Hello. Hi. We're going to Croatia.
Okay.
Can you guys look up? Say hi.
I can't.
Take off your seatbelt. Say hi.
Hi.
So far so good. So far it's just like how it was in Germany. They look at our documents, ask where we're going, and then they take our residency cards over to the booth, presumably to confirm that we are going where we're going. There's a German vehicle towing a motorcycle and 2 bikes in front of me, and somebody else behind me, presumably not Austrians as well. Okay, somebody had asked why I'm wearing the scarf. That's because we don't have N95 masks, and some have said, oh, that scarf's not gonna do anything. I beg to differ. I think it's doing something, even if it's something. If it's not to protect myself, it at least will protect others if I happen to be carrying the virus asymptomatically. So we did get across Austria. We have to sign a piece of paper, and they said that you cannot stop in Austria, and that is absolutely our plan. We don't plan to stop in Austria. We're driving straight through, and hopefully in the next couple of hours we will get to Slovenia, and hopefully the similar situation will happen. But what's great is that this border crossing was very, very, very smooth, very easy, very painless. We showed the usual paperwork, which is our Croatian residency cards. We showed our vehicle information, which they didn't really care too much to see. Compared to the German border, they actually even asked for my driver's license, which I just showed my California valid driver's license, and they accepted it. But here in Austria, they just want for transit, people on transit, to just drive straight through. So if you are trying to get south through Austria, it is possible, and it is very easy. They have a pretty good procedure. They make you sign a document saying that you're going to do so. So I assume that if they catch you doing otherwise, there will be legal consequences. So if you're driving through, please follow the rules, as we absolutely plan on doing. So onwards through Austria. We're going up over the Alps now, so there's going to be some elevation change, probably some temperature drop, but it'll be during the day. It is still only 10:30 in the morning, so we're good. So we have passed the city of Salzburg in Austria, and just to the east of us will be the town of Zalem, which has the coronavirus, and I don't know how bad the infection is in the town, but the town is closed. And our good friends Daniel and Steffi, who we met twice in Canada, and then once last year when we came to Zalem to visit them, we spent the night on their driveway. They're in quarantine, they're in lockdown, and they tested positive for corona, but they are for the most part asymptomatic. I think they have a lingering cough, but our thoughts are with them. Hopefully they get well soon and recover, and also our thoughts are with all the infected people in Austria, and thank you for letting us cross to the state of Tyrol. That is basically the western end of Austria. It is one of the worst outbreaks in the country in Austria so far. So if you're planning on driving to Austria, or at least through Austria, maybe you're coming home to Austria, or maybe you're driving through to one of the other countries south of it, avoid that part, because you will have a really difficult time driving through. And also an update for driving through. The document we signed, and also the border police, I guess they're not typically the border police, they're just probably the regular police of Austria, the national police perhaps, informed us that we are not allowed to stop. And we also looked at buying a vignette online, and the website where you buy a vignette for Austria online is completely blocked off until the 20th of April. So the earliest you can buy a vignette online is for the 21st, which doesn't help us, doesn't serve us any good. And the fact that we agreed and signed this legal document to not stop during the entire drive means that we're not supposed to stop even to buy a vignette. So let's just hope that the requirement for a vignette has been suspended during this time, because we're unable to acquire one. So we're just driving now. It should only take us about a couple hours to get through Austria. And so far, the roads are pretty clear. There's some private cars driving around. I would say more than half of them are big trucks delivering goods.
Guten Tag. Bitte bezahlen Sie am Automat mit Münzen und Banknoten mit Kreditkarte oder Videomautkarte. Für Rechnungsbeleg bitte Quittungsknopf drücken.
Okay, through. Sanitizer, please. So in all, we paid 20 euros to get through Austria. There's public roads that you're supposed to buy a vignette for, but then about the second half it's private, so you still pay toll at 2 toll booths. And now in a few miles, about 3 miles, we should be coming up on the Slovenian border. Hello.
Hello. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a nice trip.
No seatbelts on. Is that it? You didn't even really look at our documents.
No, Croatia. He saw the first. That was a longer wait at this border than at the Austrian or the German border, but I think mainly because that they're measuring temperature of everybody, including the truck drivers, looks like. Because Austria, Germany, and France, they both have pretty high numbers, and I think Slovenia and Croatia have much lower numbers. So now that we're coming in from these different places, they want to measure your temperature just to have an idea. I don't know if they would do anything different, let you go or not, but our temperatures are fine, so we were let in. But they did say that we have to wear our mask when we drive through Slovenia. What else did he say?
When we get to the border to Croatia, he thinks they're going to give us trouble if we're not wearing a mask.
Okay.
So they're going to get mad at us.
But we don't have actual masks, so
He said
we're gonna,
which
yeah,
is like scarf.
Scarf is okay. So we're gonna have to wear our masks, and the reality is we want to do that anyways, but you know, we don't really know what they ask from us when we're inside the car. So sometimes they want to see our face, to look at our pictures, take off our sunglasses. Sometimes they want to put on a mask, but you can't really have both. You can't really see the people like they did in the last 2 borders in Austria and Germany, and wear masks and glasses, protective gear at the same time. So now we're 2 borders down today, only 1 more to go, which is Croatia. I don't anticipate problems going into Croatia, being that is our residence country, but you never know. So that was 2 hours. It is now 1 p.m. We left the place we slept last night at 10:30, waited about 20 minutes at the border, but now we're in Slovenia. Only 2 hours here, and we should be crossing into Croatia. And it's early enough, I believe, that if we don't have any troubles driving, we should be able to go straight to Split. Fingers crossed, everything goes smoothly from here. I want to thank you guys for following along. I hope this is helpful for some of you. And as far as we know, when we were in Morocco talking to the Croatian embassy in Morocco, we were the only people stuck in Morocco driving our camper. So most likely, if those of you that are watching are just kind of following our story at this point, and I really appreciate it. And thank you guys for all the loving and caring messages that you've sent to us. It really means a lot to us. It means a lot that people are out there worried about us, caring for us, and we're all healthy. The kids are doing really well. We're in the home stretch. Things are looking good. Okay, we're at a diesel place, rest stop in Slovenia. This is about 100 kilometers or 60, a little over 60 miles from the Croatian border of Rupa, which is just north of Rijeka. We had done some research and we found out there's two main borders that we could cross that we know for sure that are open. The one near Zagreb, which is the bigger one, Bragana, which is where all the big trucks are going to be crossing probably. So there could be a little bit more weight there. And this Rupa one is just for passenger vehicles. So we're gonna go there, and also because it's along the coast and we gotta head straight down the coast basically. So it's gonna be shorter for us. We wanted to get into Croatia with a full tank of gas just in case we don't have an opportunity to fill up, because once we get into Croatia, there's gonna be more restrictions on what we can do. Because we'll be under quarantine mode. We basically will have to, from what we heard, just like in Slovenia, they're going to take our temperature, they're going to give us instructions for quarantine. We have to go straight to our place, and I'm assuming they're going to document our information at the border and maybe provide us some travel documents to get there, and possibly a limitation of how much time we have to get there. So we won't find out until we get there in about an hour and a half. But for now, we're just you know, making a quick lunch, top off on diesel. I topped off the DEF, and this will be probably the last time we will fill up the van before it gets parked somewhere. We still don't know where we're going to park yet. That's going to be tricky, and hopefully we'll get to Split before complete darkness. I'm not sure exactly when. It's going to be another possibly 5 to 6 hours before we get there, so it'll be close to dark, if not already dark. But the end is in sight. We can see it. We can tell every border that we cross as we get closer to the residence country of Croatia. It gets a little easier, but also they do slightly more testing, because now we're in Slovenia, which has only triple-digit cases and double-digit fatalities, which we're down to either, you know, a place that they're doing not as much testing as they should, or they're just doing a better job of isolating people. Croatia is on total lockdown as well. So Slovenia and Austria is similar. That we're not seeing a lot of just passenger vehicles on the road. And Croatia is also still in triple-digit cases and double-digit fatalities, and relatively low percentage of fatalities as well. Compared to Morocco, Morocco is actually fairly high in fatalities for the number of cases that they're claiming. I think right now it's something like 600 or almost 700 cases, but they have in the neighborhood of like 70 fatalities. So that's very, very high percentage. So, which indicates to me that there's a lack of testing. But it could be the case here too, Slovenia and Croatia, but we just don't know. Time will tell whether or not we get the exponential growth. Every country has had it, so I don't expect, you know, these other smaller countries with lower cases to not have it. But let's hope the lockdown is working, and I hope you guys are all doing well. I'll get back to you guys in a couple hours once we cross into our country's border. Anyways, we're a few minutes away now from the border, and this will be our third border of the day, and hopefully things go well. It's going to be a little bit different because we're crossing into our country of residence, so we're not just transiting, and we'll see how this goes and what kind of additional requirements we'll have. They're probably going to give us some additional information about quarantine, So we'll find out. It's coming up soon. Should I wait or not? Okay, so there's not that many people here. There's just a couple of trucks. One truck is in front of us, and he went across. Marlene is now out there with the border police with our paperwork, and he's looking it up. So far so good. Normally there's a border crossing here anyways because Croatia's not in the Schengen zone, but in the past, you know, it's pretty much business as usual. But obviously this time we're dealing with a slightly different animal. You guys doing okay back there? People were wondering on the video how you're so quiet.
Minecraft.
Because Minecraft.
Phone.
Say hi to the camera.
Hi. Phones is how you get us to be quiet.
We got them quiet with phones.
Not super quiet.
Well, devices, screens. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? They have a procedure of some kind?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Clean, sanitize, do all the stuff.
Yeah.
I'll drive and you can tell me.
Where's my camera?
And we're in Croatia! Nobody's excited?
You can take your mask off now.
All right, we made it. 3 borders in 1 day. And now, I mean, we still got a ways to drive. Marlene was there for a good 10-20 minutes talking to the border agent. So tell us about what we're supposed to do.
Okay. Well, you need to go the quickest way home. You cannot drive around sightseeing right now.
Yeah.
So the straightest path there is the path you're supposed to be on. If you get pulled over by the cops, we have transit papers.
Okay.
I said we're going to be there tonight, so this is for just for today.
Okay.
So you need to get there with our IDs. And then,
If we get pulled over, show that.
Yeah,
And that's
with
only
our-
good until the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then he gave us some other things in case we get sick. We don't go to the hospital. We need to call 112.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that like 911?
I think so.
Okay.
So then it has like all the information in English he had. So. And then he's like, go straight home, and they have her phone number. So he had to put in her phone number for each car. So it took forever because he had to answer questions and
For
fill out
all
forms.
5 people.
Yeah, so it took a little bit longer. He said, go straight home. If you don't have enough food for your 14-day stay, you may stop at one store.
Oh, that's good.
And I asked him, does it have to be the first one we see? He's like, no, when you get to Split, the first whatever one in Split, you can go, but you may not all go. Only one person go in.
Okay.
Do the grocery shopping. And then you're done. If you have enough stuff, it's better to just go straight home.
We should buy some fresh vegetables if we can go get it. Because now we know we'll get home today, because before we crossed any of these borders, it was uncertain whether or not we'll be stuck behind one.
Right.
Now that we're not, I think we should go to a store. We should stock up on more food. I don't know what kind of shortages they have, but at the Lidl in Germany, they didn't have flour and they didn't have toilet paper.
Oh, yeah, that's why we didn't buy it.
So they didn't have any flour. I think flour was a shortage in Germany. So, okay, they didn't take our temperature, which I thought they were going to.
It didn't.
No. Okay, so straight home.
Straight home.
Oh, we did it!
Yay!
Woohoo!
Finally.
Finally. All right. We are in Croatia, but it doesn't mean it's over yet. So let's see how the rest of the day goes. So we're 236 kilometers away from our apartment in Split. And we're just over 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes according to Google Maps. We've come a long, long, long way since we decided to leave our campground outside of Agadir, Morocco. That was 2 Sundays ago. Today is Thursday. This past Sunday is when we got on the ferry from Morocco to France. And since then it's been 4 days. 4 days of riding the ferry for about 40 hours, and since then we've been driving pretty much straight, non-stop, for the 3rd day in a row to get back to Croatia. and we see the end in sight. And it's really a relief to be this close. And we have everything we need. We have all the information we need to get back into the apartment and start our 2-week self-quarantine. We are glad that we went shopping, grocery shopping in Germany, because when we crossed into Croatia, the border agent told us that we can stop at one store, and we cannot stop at any more. But what he didn't tell us is that all the stores closed at 5 p.m., which we're still 2 hours away, and it's already 6:20 p.m. So for all intents and purposes, we're not going to be able to go shop at a store. But we should have enough food and enough supplies to get us through the 2-week quarantine. If not, we've got friends and family that have given us information on how to get delivery, and there's fast food places, restaurants that are delivering to your homes in Split that we can use. So we should be in good shape. And before we got on the ferry, and if you go back another week, the Sunday before this past Sunday, which is the day we left our campground outside of Agadir, and we drove about 500 miles, or a little under 900 kilometers, to the town just outside of Ceuta, and that's when we started our Stuck in Morocco journey. And from that day until the day we got on the ferry, that was a full week of us not knowing exactly where we're going to be and how we're going to get back to Split. And that seemed like ages ago, and that was actually just about 11 days ago that happened. So we're super thankful of this home on wheels that we have that's kept us safe. And we're super thankful of all the Moroccans that helped us out. Super thankful of all of the European Union embassies that worked together to figure out a way to get all the European Union citizens that wanted to leave and go to their home country to be able to go. The fact that we are where we are right now is something that was hard to imagine 11 days ago. But we did it. We are here. We're grateful for everything. I'm grateful for all of you guys who have supported us on YouTube and on Instagram. All the people from Morocco, all the people from across Europe, and all the viewers, all the subscribers and all the Instagram followers from the United States, our home country of the United States, because I think there's a lot of questions that people have had. Some of you guys are just new to our channel and don't really know how this is even possible. Why is this Asian guy speaking with an American accent in English, proclaiming that he's from Croatia, or his home country is Croatia, as a residency in Split? How does this even all work? So I know this is really confusing to some of you that are new, but this is our sort of last part of this Stuck in Morocco, Driving Home to Croatia series. Now I'll explain this all right now. We've explained it in one of these videos, but we are American citizens. Marlene, my wife, grew up in California. Our kids were born in California, but Marlene's parents are from Croatia. And I grew up in California. I was born in Taiwan. And for the last 12 years, we've been traveling in vehicles just like this. Different types of vehicles. But this one we've been living in for the last 2 years. But also for the last 2 years, we've been living in Europe. We've been traveling across Europe with our home base in Croatia. And we have, Marlene and the kids have dual citizenship in Croatia, and I have residency. So that is why we're able to go back to Croatia with our residency. So that's the short version of that story for those of you that are super confused about how this is even possible that we're coming to Croatia. So there's several other questions that you guys have asked. One of them asked about how the kids are doing. The kids are doing great. We're basically letting them have, free reign to use our cell phone data so that they can be occupied while we're trying to deal with all this stuff. And we were able to stock up on a lot of groceries before we left Agadir. So we had enough food to get us through. The initial plan when we left Agadir is that, okay, we're gonna drive all day to Ceuta and get on a ferry from Ceuta to Spain, and then we're gonna drive nonstop from Spain back to Croatia. So our original plan got us enough food to do that from the grocery store. There was a Carrefour in Agadir that we shopped at just before we left. And then once we realized that we were stuck there, we started consuming those supplies. And when we got moved to the isolation camp outside of Tanger Med, we were continuing to use those supplies and whatever supplies we had in the van. And when we knew that we could get on the ferry, we started to stock up again for the ride. For the 2 nights that we were going to be on the ferry, we bought all the food that we needed from the little store that they had at the isolation camp. Groceries, we had water, that we had enough to get us through here. And then now our next opportunity to shop was in Germany, so we were able to stock up on enough for the next 2 weeks. So our kind of staple foods have been things like, you know, your usual easy to make stuff like pasta, rice. We have plenty of meat that we bought. We make, you know, kind of root vegetables that are easy to keep: carrots, potatoes, onions. We also have some cabbage. We have dry goods, groceries, boxes of tomato sauce, and canned tuna. So we're not going to be eating super fancy meals. We're just going to have food that, you know, that we know that the kids like. We know that we can eat. We bought sliced bread that can keep longer than fresh bread. You know, there are some more preservatives in packaged sliced bread than we'd like, but this is just what you have to do in isolation. Some rice, some dry pasta, and some beans that we still have. So we plan on bringing all that up to our apartment to be able to deal with these next 2 weeks. And also, some of you guys have asked about, you know, why do we feel like we were stuck in Morocco? And some Moroccans, you know, had issues with the phrase "stuck in Morocco," and they said, hey, you weren't stuck in Morocco, you're welcome here. And I appreciate all of these sentiments. All the Moroccans have been super gracious. People that offer this place to stay, and the Moroccan authority that organized the isolation camp, and all the organization that led to us being on a ferry. I appreciate all of that, but it doesn't change the fact that we were actually stuck. And being stuck somewhere isn't about whether or not you feel welcome or not. You can feel 100% welcome, 100% safe in a place, but if you're stuck there, you're still stuck there. Just like if you're at your best friend's house, where you're welcome to stay there forever, but the fact that you cannot leave means that you're still stuck there. So I think it's just a matter of semantics. Some people may not like the word being stuck somewhere, but being stuck somewhere should be completely disassociated with whether or not you feel welcome. We felt totally welcome in Morocco, but the fact is that we were still stuck there. That's, you know, that's a matter of fact. It's not about opinion, because we were working with our embassy. We were working with the American embassy. We were working with the Croatian embassy. Our friends were working with the New Zealand embassy. Our other friends were working with the UK embassy. And we were talking to the deputy ambassador who was on site at the isolation camp from Germany. And people were working with the embassy from France that helped organize the ferry. People were legitimately stuck. It's not like somebody said, oh, you can just call up the embassy and they'll send a plane. That is absolutely untrue, because if there was a way to get people out, people would have done it. And the fact that we were already directly working with our embassies to get the ferry to come from France, ultimately, which is what happened, was the solution. So I don't want anybody, regardless where you're from, to be offended with the phrase "stuck in Morocco," because that was ultimately a matter of fact. We were stuck there. And also there were some questions that people asked about, oh, you know, how come you didn't know? You know, when the World Health Organization said there's a world pandemic, why didn't you leave right away? Well, the fact is that nobody knew how quickly this would escalate. Nobody did. Well, maybe some people did, but if you thought that you did, in hindsight, it's easy. You know, the saying goes, hindsight is 20/20. It's easy to look at hindsight and say, oh yeah, you should have done this. I would have done that. But if you're saying that, if that's what you think, really think about this. If it was so obvious to you, how many of you shorted the stock market and became rich from this? Probably next to nobody, which is the truth. Nobody knew how quickly this was going to escalate. So, you know, we cannot use hindsight to judge people's decisions. And I don't judge anybody who made the decision to stay or the decision to go. All we're simply doing is we're sharing our experience because we decided to go. And we didn't want to have to go through a bunch of this early on because we were trying to use these videos to help people that wanted to leave, to show people our experience, what it was like to be there, and if they were going to drive up to the isolation camp in Tangerman, what they can expect, and how to communicate with their embassies. But we did have reasons why we didn't leave sooner. We were in Tafru a week before we went to the campground, and about 7 or 8, or maybe 6 or 7 days before we left the campground to come up to try to board a ferry. And the reason why we were in that campground for so long, it was actually because while we're in Tafru, we found an abandoned box that had 6 one-day-old puppies in it. And this sounds ridiculous. This sounds like a made-up story, but it's absolutely true. And when we're during our 2-week quarantine in Split, we'll catch up on all of our Morocco videos, and you guys will see them posted right here on this channel. And which is, it's going to give us an opportunity to catch up on a lot of stuff. We have videos that I shot last winter driving through Turkey and Greece and Bulgaria, Romania, and I plan to catch up on all that, which the fact that we'll have time to do this is actually kind of a gift for us. I think we'll get to make these videos and show them to you guys finally, even though some of them now is, you know, over a year old. But the fact is, we left Tafru to go to this campground because we were taking care of these 6 one-day-old puppies when we found them, and they had to be bottle fed every 3 hours around the clock, which meant that we were only sleeping at the most 2.5 hours at a time. Mostly Marlene, really. Marlene had to wake up 2.5 hours, and we were having to clean them using a lot of water, so we couldn't sustain being at a place with no running water. So we had to take them to the campground outside Agadir. And the reason why we chose that campground is because there was an animal shelter called Morocco Animal Aid, and they're doing amazing work in Morocco, saving animals that are in need. And there are lots and lots of animals that are in need in Morocco. And if you're safe and you have the means and you want to help somebody, you want to help an organization, I would urge you to help Morocco Animal Aid, and I'll put links down in the description for you to donate. But when we brought those puppies to Morocco Animal Aid outside of Agadir, all of their volunteers had just went home because they had just declared, the WHO had just declared the worldwide pandemic emergency, and all of the embassies around the world had just advised all their travelers to go home. So from having a volunteer base, about a dozen people, they went down to a skeleton crew for about 3 people, and they have about 120 to 150 animals that they're taking care of at this animal shelter. So they couldn't take our puppies in who were just literally days old because they had a parvovirus going around their shelter, and because these puppies were so young, they couldn't actually take care of them. They couldn't take them in because they would catch the virus and succumb to it within days. So we took on the job of fostering these puppies for the next 6 or 7 days while we're at this campground, while they were able to kind of catch up and figure out how they're going to deal with their animal shelter with all the volunteers that had just boarded planes to go back to their home countries. So when we finally were able to when they had time to catch up 6 days later, when we actually were able to hand the puppies over to Morocco Animal Aid, that was 2 days before we left that campground. We were finally able to catch a breath for ourselves. And that's when we decided that morning we left our campground and we drove to the border outside of Ceuta. And it is from that moment on you guys started watching these Stuck in Morocco stories. So it didn't make sense for us to explain all this in these previous videos because there were much more urgent topics that I wanted to cover. But some people have asked, and I told you earlier in this video that I will explain, that I will answer some of these stories, some of these questions that you're asking. So that, in a short-ish version, is how we ended up in the situation that we're in. But we're, again, grateful for all of you that have been supporting us, and we're happy that all of you who are watching this, hopefully you guys are all safe, you guys are all healthy. We are now on the final stretch to get back to a safe place for us to start self-quarantining. And thank you guys all again for this. You know, we wouldn't be here without you, and we hope the best for all of you. And thank you to everyone. A lot of this has just been a big mental load in the back of our mind. It's not so much that, of course there's a physical load. You have to really be aware of sanitation, be aware of washing hands, sanitizing, not touching things. Anytime you go outside, you have to be aware, cover your nose and mouth, wear a mask, wear gloves in all these situations. But what makes it really, really tough through all this is to handle the mental load. And the fact that people are outside like us for the last about 11 days, we have been using our home on wheels as a safe shelter, meanwhile having to be on the move a lot and having a real dynamic situation happening all around us has been really, really difficult. And that's why I'm saying it's the mental aspect that becomes really challenging. I think it's much easier for us to be able to be inside a fixed location with fixed expectations, which is why we decided that we wanted to go back to the split apartment that we have access to so badly. And to be able to do that in the next 2.5 hours is a gift to us. So I'm going to be able to drop this mental load that's in the back of our mind. And the fact that all of us are still healthy, we're not showing any symptoms, you know, is a big sigh of relief for us. So I know this is getting kind of long-winded, but I just want to reiterate, stay strong. If you're still out there, if you're still not made it back to your safe location yet, keep your mental state, stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe. If you have any comments, you have any questions, drop them below. We're happy to answer them for you. And if you have ways to help other people that you know that are still out stranded, do whatever means that you can while staying safe yourself. Love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.